Failure doesn't begin when someone loses. Failure begins the moment they refuse to start. The graveyard of human potential is not filled with those who tried and fell. It is filled with those who stood at the edge of their dream and let fear, doubt, and hesitation turn their feet to stone. Most people fail long before the race ever begins, not because they are incapable, not because the path is impossible, but because their minds are chained to invisible walls they built themselves. They see the mountain. They feel the wind. But they never take the first step. The truth is uncomfortable. Most people aren't defeated by the world. They're defeated by their excuses. They talk about tomorrow like it's guaranteed, as if life owes them another sunrise. But tomorrow doesn't belong to anyone. The only real power a human being ever holds is the decision made in the present moment. That single quiet decision, to begin, to act, to build, to risk, has shaped empires, created inventions, birthed legends, and changed the course of history. But for most, it's the decision they never make. Think about it. Every great dreamer who ever lived stood at that same edge you stand at now. Thomas Edison stared at darkness long before he gave the world light. Henry Ford was mocked for believing the average man could drive a car. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination. Abraham Lincoln lost election after election before he became the voice of a nation. They were not born chosen. They were born ordinary. What separated them from the billions who never moved wasn't luck. It was the simple, world-shifting choice to begin when everyone else stood frozen. Most people never begin because they believe they need permission. They wait for a sign, a guarantee, the perfect time. But perfection is the greatest lie ever whispered to the human soul. There will never be a perfect moment. There will only be this moment. And the one who learns to move despite imperfection is the one who conquers while others rot in hesitation. The world does not reward waiting. It rewards the bold. It rewards the one who begins. And here's the tragedy. Hesitation wears a friendly face. It whispers things that sound reasonable. I'll start when I'm ready. I'll move when the time is right. I'll act when I have more money, more knowledge, more confidence. These words sound smart, but they are chains. Every time you say them, the chains tighten. And one day, you wake up and realize you're no longer waiting, you're stuck. The beginning is supposed to be messy. It's supposed to be uncertain. That's what makes it powerful. Success is not born in clarity. Success is born in the fog, when you can't see the whole path but take the step anyway. Edison didn't wait for someone to hand him a blueprint for the light bulb. Ford didn't wait for society to understand his vision. They started in uncertainty, in chaos, with nothing but belief so loud it drowned out the noise of the world. And that is where most people fail. Not in the doing, but in the not doing. The first enemy is fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of what happens if it doesn't work. People don't fear the mountain. They fear falling on the climb. But here's a truth carved into the bones of history. The only people who never fall are the ones who never climb. Fear disguises itself as protection. But in reality, it's a thief. It steals years. It steals dreams. It steals the fire that could have burned bright. Most people will die with their dreams still inside them. Not because someone stole them, but because they handed them over to fear voluntarily. But fear has no real power. It only survives when you feed it. Every moment you hesitate, you feed it. Every excuse, every delay, every "I'll do it tomorrow" is a feast for your fear. But the second you move just one decisive step, it starves. Because fear cannot follow action. It can only grow in silence. The second enemy is doubt. Doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. Doubt is not loud. It's quiet, patient, and clever. It doesn't tell you you can't do it. It whispers, maybe you shouldn't. It makes you question your worth, your timing, your strength. And because it sounds rational, people believe it. They stop themselves before life ever has the chance to test them. They become their own gatekeepers. And then there's the third enemy, the comfortable life. Comfort is seductive. It tells you that where you are isn't so bad. That you can dream without risking. That you can live without stretching. Comfort convinces people to trade greatness for safety, potential for ease, impact for routine. And the scariest part? Most people never realize they made that trade. They call it being realistic, but what they've really done is bury their own fire under layers of soft excuses. History is not written by those who wanted comfort. History is written by those who were willing to get uncomfortable, bleed for a vision, and take a step even when they couldn't see the finish line. The moment you decide to begin, you already separate yourself from the masses. The moment you stop waiting for approval, the moment you stop asking permission to be great, the moment you say, "I will," that's the moment your life starts to shift. You see, failure is never in the beginning. It's in the refusal to begin. A dream sitting on paper will never change your life. A business idea locked in your head will never feed your family. A vision you're too afraid to act on will never build anything. Only movement transforms air into impact. Only action separates the wishful from the powerful. And here's something the world won't tell you. The people you admire are not better than you. They're not smarter, not braver by nature. They just started. That's it. They stood in the same storm, with the same doubts, the same fears, but they took a step when others backed away. Greatness isn't born. It's chosen. And that choice happens before the first dollar is earned, before the first door opens, before the world ever claps for you. It happens in the silence when no one is watching, and you decide to move anyway. Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid that moment. They collect information. They go to seminars. They read books. They dream and plan and fantasize about success. But they never cross the line between learning and doing. They confuse preparation with execution. Preparation is safe. Execution is war. And that's why most people live their lives on the sidelines, experts at everything but participants in nothing. If you truly want to rise, if you truly want to build, if you truly want to live a life that means something, you must begin before you feel ready. Because you will never feel ready. The mind loves safety, and safety lives behind the line of inaction. But growth, real, relentless, history-making growth, lives on the other side of that line. Every great inventor, every leader, every dreamer who changed the world took their first step without knowing how the 10th would look. Edison failed over 1,000 times before the bulb lit. Ford faced bankruptcy before he built an empire. Lincoln was laughed out of politics before he led a nation. Andrew Carnegie started with nothing but a belief that he could rise. They weren't handed guarantees. They built their futures with their bare hands while their fears screamed at them to stop. And they kept moving. Success is never about who starts with the most. It's about who begins when they have almost nothing but their will. People wait for confidence to come first. But confidence is not the spark. It's the fire that comes after. The spark is the decision. That moment when you stop talking and start moving. That moment when you silence the excuses and take the step that makes everything else possible. Right now, someone is sitting where you are, dreaming the same dream, facing the same doubts. But only one of you will move. Only one will look back on this moment years from now and say, "That was the day everything changed." And it won't be because of talent. It won't be because of luck. It will be because of the decision to start. Why do most people fail before they begin? Because they don't understand that life never hands you clarity first. Life hands you fog, and it's your job to walk through it. They believe they need to see the whole staircase. But success isn't about seeing the staircase. It's about taking the first step in the dark and trusting that the next step will appear when you do. The world belongs to those who move while others wait. It belongs to the builders, the doers, the ones who decide that the fear of regret is greater than the fear of failure. It belongs to those who would rather die trying than live with the weight of "what if" on their chest. Those are the people who rise. You must make your choice now, not tomorrow, not next year, not when the timing feels perfect. Because the perfect time is a lie. The door to your future doesn't open on a calendar date. It opens the moment you push it. And if you don't push, it will stay shut until the day you take your last breath. Every empire begins with a single brick. Every story begins with a single word. Every movement begins with a single step. The question is not whether you can. The question is whether you will. Whether you'll keep waiting for permission or finally give it to yourself. whether you'll keep collecting dreams or finally build one. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is not talent. It's not intelligence. It's not opportunity. It's the decision to act, to step into the arena, to embrace uncertainty and turn it into strength. The most dangerous thing you can do is hesitate, because hesitation kills faster than failure ever could. When a person hesitates, life moves on without them. Opportunity doesn't wait for the unsure. Time does not stand still for those who need a little more courage. Life is brutally fair in one way. It gives everyone a chance to begin, but only a few actually take it. The rest watch as those who dared move forward build everything they once whispered about in secret. And when the years pass, they call it luck, they call it privilege, they call it fate. But what it really was a decision they were too afraid to make. You cannot tiptoe into greatness. You cannot sneak your way to impact. You must stand in the light of your own decision and say, I will do this, no matter what comes, no matter what it costs. Because the moment you decide to begin, you sign an invisible contract with yourself. One that says you'll face the storms, climb the walls, bleed if you have to, and keep going long after the excitement has faded. Most people never sign that contract. They flirt with their dreams but never commit to them. And in the silence of their hesitation, their potential withers. The mind will lie to you. It will tell you that you need certainty before action. But certainty is a reward, not a requirement. Look back at history. Walt Disney didn't have certainty when he was fired for lacking imagination. Henry Ford didn't have certainty when he faced bankruptcy before building the assembly line that changed the world. Andrew Carnegie didn't have certainty when he worked in a factory earning pennies. Abraham Lincoln didn't have certainty when the world called him a failure. But they began. And because they began, certainty eventually belonged to them. You will never be ready. The right moment will never arrive with a sign saying, now. Readiness is something you earn through action, not something that falls into your lap. The beginning is supposed to feel terrifying. If it doesn't, it's not big enough. Every dream worth chasing comes with the weight of fear, because fear is a sign you are standing at the edge of something real. Most people misread fear as a stop sign. The great ones recognize it as a signal to move. Every time you say, I'll start when, you push your future further away. When you say, I'll start when I have enough money, someone with less starts anyway. When you say, I'll start when I'm confident, someone who's terrified takes the leap. When you say, I'll start when the time is right, someone who understands there is no right time is already halfway up the mountain. And months later, years later, when you finally look around, you realize they've built what you only talked about. Because they began. This world doesn't reward intention. It rewards execution. Ideas alone build nothing. Intentions alone change nothing. A thought is only as powerful as the action that follows it. Everyone has ideas. Everyone has dreams. But the difference between the dreamers and the builders is that the builders begin. If you're waiting for motivation to push you, understand this: motivation fades. Discipline is what carries you. Fire is powerful, but it burns out fast. Steel is forged in the fire and survives long after. Discipline is steel. It's what carries you when the hype is gone, when the world isn't watching, when the early morning is cold and quiet. Discipline is the reason why two people with the same dream end up in different realities. One waits to feel ready. The other moves, builds, grows. And years later, one talks about what they could have done, while the other did it. Most people fail before they begin because they confuse excitement with commitment. They love the rush of imagining the end result, the applause, the recognition, the reward, but they have no taste for the process. They forget that everything great is forged in the furnace of difficulty. The empire you want will not be built in your comfort zone. It will be built in the long, quiet hours when no one is cheering, when every bone in your body whispers, stop, and your willpower answers back, no. The path doesn't get easier. You get stronger. The beginning is always the hardest because you are still trying to believe in a version of yourself that doesn't exist yet. But that version is real. It's waiting on the other side of your hesitation. Every step forward brings you closer to becoming the person who can hold the life you dream about. The longer you delay the first step, the longer you delay meeting that version of yourself. You must understand that failure isn't something to fear. Failure is proof of movement. If you fall, it means you were in the arena. If you stumble, it means you tried. The only people who never fail are those who never begin. And they pay a far heavier price than failure. They pay with regret. Regret is the ghost that walks with people who had the chance to start but didn't. It's the echo of all the steps they never took. It's the voice that grows louder as the years pass, whispering, "What if?" No one escapes that voice. You either silence it now with action or live with it forever in the quiet moments of your life. Regret isn't loud in your 20s. It whispers. In your 30s, it grows teeth. By your 40s and 50s, it roars like a storm. It's the conversation no one wants to have with themselves, the one that begins with, "I could have." When Thomas Edison failed thousands of times, he wasn't failing to invent the light bulb. He was collecting ways it didn't work. Every misstep was proof that he was in the fight. Most people never reach their breakthrough not because they're incapable, but because they never collect enough failures to find the way that works. They run from failure instead of learning from it. They fear falling down more than they desire to stand tall. Success is not about the loud moments when everyone sees you. It's about the quiet battles no one notices. It's about the moment at 4 a.m. when the alarm goes off and no one's watching. It's about sitting alone with your doubts and choosing to act anyway. It's about waking up tired but still building. About facing the voice that says, "Give up," and answering, "Not today." Every legend has a chapter the world never reads. A chapter of doubt. A chapter of fear. A chapter of exhaustion. That chapter is written before the glory, before the applause, before the world believes. The reason most people fail before they begin is because they aren't willing to live through that chapter. They want the final page without earning the ink. Greatness is not some mystical gift handed down from the heavens. It's forged through blood, sweat, fear, and stubborn belief. It's born when you choose to begin even when the odds are stacked against you. When Henry Ford was ridiculed for his horseless carriage, he didn't stop to wait for approval. When Andrew Carnegie dreamed of building empires of steel, no one believed in him. He began anyway. They didn't wait for applause. They built until the applause was inevitable. You must choose which kind of pain you want to live with. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Discipline hurts now, but it builds strength. Regret doesn't hurt at first. It's quiet. But over time, it becomes unbearable. One makes you. The other breaks you. Every single person who built something extraordinary walked into the unknown. There is no secret path. There is no magic. There is only movement. Movement when no one believes. Movement when the fear is screaming. Movement when your hands are shaking. Movement when your voice trembles. Movement when everything inside you wants to run back to safety. Do not let fear convince you that safety is strength. Safety is a slow death. It's a comfortable coffin for your dreams. The fire of your potential does not die all at once. It dims with every year you spend waiting to start. You must protect it. You must act before that flame is just a memory. One day you'll look back on your life and there will be two kinds of moments that matter. The ones where you began and the ones where you didn't. The roads you walked and the ones you left behind. The chances you took and the ones you buried under excuses. The difference between those two will define everything. Every sunrise is an invitation to begin. Every second that passes is another opportunity slipping through your hands. The clock is not your friend. It does not care about your excuses. It moves whether you do or not. And one day it will run out. You have everything you need to begin, not everything to finish. No one has that at the start. But you have enough to take the step. To choose movement over stillness. Action over doubt. Power over fear. The question is, will you? When you start, you change your story. You go from being a spectator to being the author. You take the pen from fear's hand and write the chapters of your life with your own blood and breath. That's what beginning is. It's not about being ready. It's about taking ownership of your life. When Walt Disney sketched a mouse on a scrap of paper, no one saw an empire. When Thomas Edison held a glowing bulb in his hand, no one could imagine the cities it would light. When Henry Ford built the first assembly line, no one thought it would redefine an era. None of them had certainty. None of them waited for permission. They began, and the world eventually followed. There is a moment in every life when the world stands still, not because the world has changed, but because your perception has. A single decision can break the illusion that has kept you small. And for most, that moment never comes, not because life didn't offer it, but because they never had the courage to step into it. That moment isn't loud. It isn't surrounded by applause. It comes quietly, like a whisper in the night saying, "Now." And those who answer that whisper are the ones who change their destinies forever. When a person begins, truly begins, something shifts. The air feels different. The world doesn't bend to them, but suddenly they realize they don't need it to. They bend themselves. They shape their mind, their habits, their energy. They turn from someone waiting for things to happen into someone who makes things happen. And that is the exact line where the majority stop. Because making things happen requires standing alone, facing uncertainty, bleeding in silence, and believing in a future no one else can see. This is why most people fail before they begin. Because the road of becoming is uncomfortable. And we, as humans, are addicted to comfort. We build little cages made of routine, habit, and excuses and call it a life. We decorate those cages, make them look nice, and tell ourselves we're safe inside. But greatness doesn't live in cages. It lives in the wilderness. It lives in the storm. It lives in that raw, terrifying space where everything you've ever been meets everything you could become. That is the beginning. You cannot carry your excuses into that place. They will not survive. You cannot take your need for approval, your craving for certainty, or your obsession with perfection. You must strip down to your will, because only will walks through the fire. The rest burns away. This is why vision matters. Not a shallow dream, but a vision, the kind that grabs your chest and won't let go. A vision so strong that when the storms hit, you don't ask if you should keep going. You just go. That kind of vision isn't about money, applause, or power. It's about something deeper. Purpose. A reason so strong that fear becomes background noise. Most people don't begin because they never find that reason. Their dreams are borrowed, echoes of what others want, not what their soul craves. And borrowed dreams don't build real empires. Only purpose does. Think of Abraham Lincoln walking through the darkness of repeated failure, election losses, and ridicule, holding on to his vision of a united nation. Think of Walt Disney sleeping on park benches with nothing but a pencil and belief that his imagination would one day become real. Think of Thomas Edison, eyes burning from sleepless nights, lighting up his laboratory again and again after 1,000 failures. They weren't just chasing an idea. They were married to a vision. And vision is what separates those who quit from those who endure. You will not find strength in the beginning. You will build it there. People wait to feel powerful before they act, but power doesn't come first. Action births power. Confidence is not the requirement. It's the reward. That's why the beginning is such a rare and sacred thing. So few ever stand in that storm and say, "Let's go." When you begin, you also awaken something ancient within you. Discipline. Not the kind built on shallow hype, but the kind carved into the bones of builders, creators, and conquerors. Discipline doesn't care if you feel like it. It doesn't care if the sun is out or the night is cold. It whispers, "Get up." Do it anyway. Discipline is what keeps the blade sharp when the world turns its back. It's what carries you through the lonely miles when no one is clapping, when your dream is still invisible to everyone else. Most people don't fail because they're not capable. They fail because they cannot stay in the fire long enough for the gold to emerge. They run at the first sign of heat. But gold isn't forged in cool air. It's shaped in flames. Every hardship, every setback, every night of doubt is the fire. And while most flee, a few stay. And those few are the ones history remembers. The reason most people fail before they begin is that they imagine the path will feel safe once they start. They imagine clarity will arrive, people will support them, the road will make sense. But the beginning is not supposed to feel safe. It's supposed to feel alive. It's supposed to shake the bones of who you were and test the strength of who you want to become. It will demand everything from you. And if you are willing to give it, it will give you everything in return. But make no mistake, the beginning is not a place for half-hearted dreams. If your vision is weak, the storm will break it. If your will is soft, the fire will burn it. That's why you must build a reason strong enough to make quitting impossible. A reason so deep that when fear screams, it doesn't even register. When failure whispers, you don't listen. When comfort seduces, you don't fall. Look at the giants who walked before us. Henry Ford faced mockery from established industries that called him insane. Andrew Carnegie built his empire from nothing, surrounded by skeptics who said a poor immigrant could never rise. Thomas Edison spent nights failing in the dark, lit only by the belief that his next attempt might work. They didn't have guarantees. They had grit. They didn't wait for the world to agree. They decided. And the world eventually followed. It's not the dream itself that creates success. It's the unwavering decision to begin that lights the spark. That decision is everything. Because the moment you commit fully, truly, without the safety net of maybe or someday, your mind shifts. It stops asking, "Can I?" and starts saying, "How will I?" And that question is the birth of progress. You must understand something deep. Most people do not lose to the world. They lose to themselves. Their enemy isn't competition. It isn't the economy. It isn't bad luck. It's the small voice inside their mind that tells them to wait, to play safe, to stay quiet. And every time they obey it, that voice grows stronger. It becomes their master. But the day they stop obeying it, the day they act in spite of it, that voice begins to break. Fear does not disappear, but it can be outgrown. And the only way to outgrow fear is through movement. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision to walk forward with fear in your shadow. And every step you take makes the shadow smaller. This is why vision, belief, and discipline form the unshakable trinity of greatness. Vision shows you the destination. Belief keeps you walking when the night gets dark. Discipline ensures that every day, no matter how small the progress, you move forward. This is how empires are built, brick by brick, step by step, moment by moment. The man or woman who understands this no longer needs motivation. Motivation is temporary. It's firewood. But vision, belief, and discipline, they are the furnace. They keep burning long after the hype dies. That's why you must stop chasing motivation and start building your furnace. Because when the storm comes, and it will come, motivation will run. But your furnace will keep you warm. Most people fail before they begin because they rely on emotion. They wait to feel ready. But emotion is fragile. It bends with the wind. The giants of history built their lives on principles, not feelings. They moved forward on the days they didn't feel like it. They built when no one believed. They walked through the dark when there was no applause. They made discipline their foundation. It will be the same for you. If you begin, you will face storms. You will meet failure. You will be misunderstood. People will doubt you. Some will mock you. Others will ignore you. But none of that matters because the only thing that can stop you is you. You have to burn the ships. Leave no way back. Because the moment you give yourself an exit, your dream becomes negotiable. And dreams that are negotiable never become real. The world belongs to those who decide that there is no other way but forward. When Abraham Lincoln faced war, division, and hatred, he didn't have the luxury of retreat. When Walt Disney was bankrupt and ridiculed, he didn't give himself a second option. When Henry Ford stood against industries larger than himself, he didn't step back. He decided that forward was the only direction. That's what beginning truly is. A decision that eliminates the exit door. It's not about shouting motivational slogans. It's about becoming a person who does not allow themselves to quit. Because when quitting is no longer an option, Action becomes the only language you speak. The reason most people fail before they begin is not that they don't have a chance. It's because they spend their lives protecting their comfort more than their calling. They protect their doubts more than their dreams. They protect their fears more than their future. And in doing so, they lose themselves quietly, slowly, completely. But the few who rise, they do the opposite. They protect their vision like a flame in the wind. They guard their belief when the world tries to blow it out. They build discipline like armor around their soul. And when they finally begin, they are unstoppable. You see, the moment you begin, the universe shifts around you. The world responds to action, not intention. When you take that first step, you send a signal, not to others but to yourself, that you are done waiting. You declare that the future will no longer be written by chance, but by choice. That single decision becomes a spark, and sparks start fires. It may not burn bright at first. It may flicker, it may struggle against the wind of doubt, but if you feed it with action every single day, it grows into a blaze that can light your entire life. But the tragedy is this: most people never light that spark. They spend their days standing in the cold, waiting for warmth to arrive. They wait for motivation, for permission, for signs from the heavens that now is the time. But the truth is brutal and simple. Motivation is not what creates movement. Movement creates motivation. The fire only burns once you strike the match. The beginning demands courage because it exposes you. The moment you start, the world sees you trying. And that's what most people fear, not failure but exposure. They're terrified of being seen starting small, of being judged, of being laughed at. But the truth is, every giant started as a seed. Every master was once an amateur. Every mountain climber took their first step trembling. You cannot skip the beginning. You cannot hide from it. You must live through it. That's where the foundation of greatness is poured. Quietly, painfully, invisibly. The first step isn't glamorous. It doesn't come with applause. It's lonely. It's awkward. It's full of mistakes and self-doubt. That's why most people never take it. They mistake the pain of growth for the pain of failure. But growth always hurts before it transforms. The cocoon must break before the butterfly can fly. The soil must crack before the seed can rise. You are not breaking down when you start. You are breaking open. Every generation has dreamers who never begin. They live half-lives, comforted by the thought that one day they will start. They talk about their vision as if it's a guarantee instead of a possibility. They convince themselves that waiting is wise. But wisdom is not in waiting. Wisdom is in knowing that the clock is ticking, and your chances are slipping away one heartbeat at a time. You cannot control the winds of opportunity, but you can hoist your sail. You can move. Think of the farmer who plants his seeds in spring. He doesn't wait for the perfect weather. He doesn't complain that the soil is hard. He plants knowing storms will come, because he understands that waiting for perfection means starvation. The same is true for your dreams. You cannot harvest what you never plant. And most people are starving for meaning because they never had the courage to plant their purpose. Inaction is not rest, it's slow decay. The longer you wait, the heavier the chain of hesitation becomes. Doubt grows like rust on the mind. Every day you hesitate, you reinforce the belief that you are not ready. Every excuse you repeat becomes a wall around your potential. And one day, the wall becomes so high that you can no longer see over it. So you must begin before the wall is built. Begin while the fear still whispers. Begin while the doubt still lingers. Begin while your hands shake. Because if you wait for confidence, it will never come. Confidence is not the reward of the beginning. It's the result of it. You must earn it through motion. There's a reason the first page of every success story looks like chaos. It's messy. It's uncertain. But that chaos is sacred. It's proof of life. It's proof of courage. Look at the first cars Ford built. Loud, imperfect, unpredictable. Look at the first cartoon Walt Disney drew. Simple, awkward, uneven. Look at the early inventions of Edison. Fragile, flickering, failing more often than not. Yet through that chaos, something beautiful emerged. Not because they were born certain, but because they refused to stop. Failure doesn't destroy you, quitting does. Falling down doesn't define you, staying down does. The world doesn't remember the missteps of those who kept going. It remembers their breakthroughs. Edison's failures are now seen as steps. Lincoln's losses are seen as lessons. Ford's bankruptcies are seen as rebirth. They weren't lucky. They were relentless. The only difference between the successful and the forgotten is that one group keeps walking through the fire while the other runs from the smoke. The fire burns everyone. No one escapes it. The question is, will you walk through it long enough to come out forged, or will you run before the heat transforms you? People think they need talent. They think success is for the chosen few. But the truth is, talent is overrated. Persistence beats talent every single time. The world is full of gifted people who never began, who let their gifts rot in the comfort of someday. The world doesn't need more gifted people. It needs more starters. It needs more finishers. It needs more people willing to look foolish today so they can be powerful tomorrow. Most people are addicted to thinking. They drown themselves in what-ifs and maybes. They analyze every detail until their dream dies of overthinking. They think they're being wise, but in reality, they're building a prison with logic. Logic is useful, but it's not leadership. The greatest achievements of humankind were not logical when they began. Flying was not logical. Electricity was not logical. Talking to someone across oceans was not logical. If logic ruled the world, progress would have stopped centuries ago. Faith, belief, and daring, those are what move the human race forward. And belief is not just an emotion. It's a decision. Belief is a muscle that grows only when you use it. You cannot wait to feel it. You must create it. You create belief by proving to yourself every day that you are capable of doing one more hard thing. You don't need to believe in the entire staircase, just in the strength to take the next step. Every step builds faith. Every action builds trust in yourself. And soon you become unstoppable. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Every empire, every masterpiece, every revolution begins in silence. Before the noise, before the fame, before the success, there is quiet work. People confuse visibility with value. They think that if no one sees their effort, it doesn't matter. But the truth is the opposite. The invisible work is the most valuable work. It's the work done when no one believes in you, when no one is watching, when there's no applause. That is where the foundation of greatness is laid. Ask any builder. The strength of a tower lies in the part you don't see. The foundation. And the foundation is built in the dark. It's dirty. It's quiet. It's slow. But without it, the building collapses. Your dream works the same way. The foundation is built in your habits, your daily effort, your willingness to show up when it's hard. No one will see it. No one will celebrate it. But one day they'll see the results, and they'll call it luck. But you'll know the truth. It wasn't luck. It was built in the dark. Do not fear the dark seasons. They are not punishment. They are preparation. The seed must die before it becomes a tree. The caterpillar must dissolve before it becomes a butterfly. You are not losing yourself in the struggle. You are becoming yourself through it. The pain of the beginning is not a sign to stop. It's a sign you're being shaped. Because life doesn't give greatness easily. It tests to see if you're worthy of carrying it. That's why most people fail before they begin, because they cannot bear the test. They want the glory without the grind. They want the result without the resistance. But the universe is a fair gatekeeper. It only opens the doors of greatness to those willing to prove they can handle what's on the other side. And the test always starts the same way, with the choice to begin. Every time you begin, you defy the odds. You challenge the noise. You tell the world that your faith is louder than your fear. The moment you act, you become a creator. And creators change the world. The tools don't matter. The timing doesn't matter. The resources don't matter. The decision does. Once you decide, the world rearranges itself to meet your conviction. People call it coincidence, but it's not. It's the law of movement. Life gives itself to the mover, not the watcher. You must begin with the belief that you can handle whatever comes. Because you can. You've survived every worst day so far. You've walked through storms you once thought would destroy you. And yet, here you are, still standing. The strength you need for your next step already lives inside you. You just haven't called on it yet. And you won't until you begin. The difference between living and existing is movement. To exist is to survive. To live is to create. To move. To risk. To fall and rise and fall again. Most people exist. They wake, they eat, they work, they sleep. Their hearts beat, but their spirits are still. To live, truly live, is to begin again every day. To look fear in the eyes and take the next step. To keep walking even when the road disappears. That's what separates the few who rise from the many who drift. Stop waiting for confidence. Stop waiting for certainty. Stop waiting for someone to tell you it's time. The world doesn't crown dreamers, it crowns doers. Begin now, even if your hands shake. Even if your voice trembles. Even if you fail at first. Because one day, you'll look back and realize that everything you ever became started with one trembling step. The world remembers those who begin. Not because they were perfect, not because they had everything figured out, but because they had the courage to move when others froze. If history has taught us anything, it's that greatness bows to those who dare to start. Every empire, every invention, every movement began with someone who looked at the impossible and said, "I'll go first." But here's the secret they won't tell you. The beginning is never about winning. It's about becoming. It's not about having it all. It's about having enough faith to step into the unknown and trust yourself to grow wings on the way down. It's about choosing action when comfort whispers, choosing purpose when fear screams, and choosing vision when doubt blinds you. Most people will never reach their potential not because they can't, but because they never begin. They spend their lives standing at the gates of their destiny, clutching the keys but too afraid to turn the lock. They wait for the storm to pass instead of learning to sail through it. And as the years slip away, they convince themselves the door was never meant to be opened. But it was. It always was. They just never pushed. You must become the kind of person who pushes, who acts without permission, who doesn't wait for the crowd to believe, who stands at the edge of the cliff and leaps, not because the ground is certain, but because the sky is yours. That kind of person doesn't wait to feel brave. They move through fear and find their courage on the other side. Look closely at those who built legacies that outlived them. Thomas Edison wasn't waiting for light. He built it. Henry Ford didn't follow a road. He paved one. Walt Disney didn't ask permission to dream. He created a world from his imagination. Abraham Lincoln didn't inherit power. He carved it out of hardship. These people were no different from you. They had doubts. They had fears. But they began anyway. And because they began, the world bent around their will. There will always be 1,000 reasons not to start. Fear will give you excuses dressed in logic. Doubt will disguise itself as wisdom. Comfort will whisper that where you are is good enough. But good enough is the language of mediocrity. Good enough is the quiet death of potential. Good enough is how most people die with their dreams still inside them. You were not born for good enough. You were born to stretch, to build, to create, to rise. The fire in your chest exists for a reason. That voice that keeps whispering more is not your enemy. It's your calling. But that calling will not wait forever. If you do not answer it, it will grow quiet. And silence, not failure, is what kills the human spirit. The world does not owe you the right moment. The world does not owe you certainty. It only offers opportunity, dressed in difficulty. And it will test you, not to break you, but to see if you're worthy of what you say you want. Life doesn't give its treasures to the hesitant. It gives them to the bold, the ones willing to be bruised, rejected, doubted, ridiculed, and still keep walking. Most people fail before they even begin because they don't understand that pain is part of the price. They want the reward without the wait. They want to skip the waiting, skip the doubt, skip the nights where their vision is the only thing keeping them standing. But those nights are not curses. They are the furnace. They are where steel is forged. When you begin, you are not just building something external, you are building yourself. The path will not welcome you kindly. It will not roll out a red carpet for your dreams. It will slap you, mock you, test you, and strip away everything weak until only strength remains. Most people turn back when the storm comes. The few who endure become unshakable. The storm doesn't stop them. It builds them. Every moment you hesitate, someone else begins. Every excuse you make, someone else silences theirs. Every dream you delay, someone else builds theirs brick by brick. And years later, when you finally look up, the gap between you and them isn't talent. It isn't luck. It's time. Time they used. Time you wasted. There will never be a perfect time to begin. There will only be now. Now is raw. Now is uncertain. Now is uncomfortable. But now is real. Now is the only moment you truly control. And if you don't use now, it will become another moment buried in your past, another stone in the wall between you and the life you want. There are two kinds of pain in this world: the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. Discipline is hard now, but it builds a future. Regret is soft now, but it haunts you forever. Discipline whispers in the morning, "Get up." Regret screams at night, "You should have." Which voice will you choose to listen to? Every person who changed the world made a decision long before they made history. They decided that fear would not dictate their path. They decided that doubt would not be their ruler. They decided to start, even when the odds said they shouldn't. And the world belongs to the one who starts. Always. Success is not a secret. It's not hidden behind locked doors. It's standing in plain sight behind a wall of hesitation. You break through by beginning. One step. One decision. One act of defiance against your own excuses. That's where everything changes. Not tomorrow, not someday, but the moment you move. The greatest tragedy is not failure. It's wasted potential. The greatest pain is not defeat. It's the life unlived. It's the song never sung. The book never written. The business never built. The invention never born. It's the person you were meant to become, waiting on the other side of a door you never opened. So begin. Begin clumsy. Begin scared. Begin uncertain. Begin with nothing but the belief that you were made for more. Because the moment you do, everything shifts. The winds that seemed against you begin to move with you. The darkness that scared you becomes the soil in which you grow. And every scar, every setback, every sleepless night becomes a chapter in the story of your rise. The world doesn't need another dreamer who never begins. It needs builders. It needs risk-takers. It needs warriors of faith who act when the crowd hesitates. It needs you to stop waiting and start moving. Ask yourself, how many more days will you spend standing at the edge of your destiny? How many more times will you look at your dream and tell yourself, not yet? How many more years will you give to fear before you finally give one to yourself? The clock does not stop. Time does not negotiate. The opportunity in front of you is not a promise. It's an invitation. But invitations expire. And when they do, they don't come back the same way. You must answer now. The beginning is not a single moment. It's a declaration. It's a roar in the face of everything that said you couldn't. It's the quiet, powerful decision that says, "This ends here. I will no longer live beneath my potential. I will no longer stand on the sidelines. I will no longer wait for permission. I will move." And once you begin, do not stop. Do not stop when it gets hard. Do not stop when the world doubts you. Do not stop when the pain gets heavy. Because the moment you stop is the moment your fire begins to fade. Keep going even when it doesn't make sense. Keep going when you can't see the end. Keep going because greatness has never belonged to those who waited. It has always belonged to those who endured. Someday, the world will look at what you've built and call it strength. But strength is not born in the spotlight. It's born in the darkness, when you decide to rise. It's born in the quiet, when you take the first step with trembling hands. It's born in the fire, when you choose faith over fear. The people who begin are the ones who shape history. The ones who hesitate are the ones who watch it. Don't be a spectator in your own life. Don't spend your years watching others live the life you were meant to claim. Stand up. Begin. Move. Build. Create. Rise. Because the truth is simple and inescapable. Most people fail before they even begin. But you don't have to be most people.